Shut up. Leave me alone.
All right, I will. Should I talk about the thing that I've started?
Yeah, all right. What have you started?
I have started watching Cold War cinema. So, like, what does that mean, right? Your first question
What does that
is,
mean,
what does that
right?
mean? I just watched 3 movies that were vaguely related, and I tied them all together. What I did is I was like, I'm away and I have some evenings free, and I watched one movie, and that was my mistake because I should have made the plan first. But I watched one movie, and then I went, damn, I should have tied some things together for the podcast. So then I did that, and I watched 2 things that I probably wouldn't have watched otherwise.
Reuben, you can't be just taking our podcast model and adapting it to however you see fit to whatever you want to talk about. That's some bullshit.
Sure I can.
Goes against our code of conduct, our ethics.
They said, taking a sip of beer live on air. And ain't nobody going to stop you. So
I'm pretty sure in our constitution it says you can drink beer. That is
it
in our
probably
thing.
does. It's probably item 1. Then
It
item
says-
2 is like whatever we decided to say about Indigenous people that didn't mean very much.
What?
Priority Australia. It says Constitution of Australia. Then it says priority 1, beer. 2, acknowledgement of country.
I was talking
3,
about our podcast constitution.
our podcast constitution.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't know we had a clause
Is
in
that
our thing
on
that said we
file
have to be
somewhere?
mean to Indigenous people. I would have said, let's not have that. Why did you put that in our constitution?
I don't know. I just copy and pasted honestly, and then put the beer
You
bit at
copy
the
and
top.
pasted the Australian
Yeah.
constitution onto our podcast constitution. Fucking, you're
I
worse
know
than
I like
ChatGPT.
writing, but it wasn't
I
that
said,
long.
Reuben, we're not putting any AI. Don't use AI for this. And you said, fine, I'll do the second laziest option.
There's a couple of little friends that I have that I haven't told you about. They're called Command and C and V. They're really good. They're really fun. They make my job so much easier.
Do you think they're going to sue us?
What, the Australian government?
Yeah.
Nah, because they don't have that bit about beer.
You added the bit about beer?
Yeah, I added the bit about beer. That's why it's at the top in a different font. Did you read this thing at all?
No.
You just read Article 1 and then you didn't get beyond the beer bit. Is that right?
I said, ChatGPT, read to me the constitution. Give me the dot points. It said beer. I said, stop.
I've had enough.
I've got a few in the fridge. I'll get ready. I read it this morning. That's why I've been guzzling this
Oh,
beer.
you're trying to catch up.
I'm trying to catch up. I've been thinking. I knew we had some sort of drinks clause. Every week I had to bring a drink, or you brought a drink for me.
You didn't realize how
I
specific
didn't realize.
it was.
No, there's so much beer, Reuben. There's so much beer.
So, Enemy of the Pod Prim inspired me to watch Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. That's the full name of the movie. It's a Stanley Kubrick movie from the 60s, all right?
Did he directly tell you to watch this, or did you just see a letterbox
No,
review
he just
that he put up?
seemed to like it on his Letterboxd review.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I've been meaning to watch that for a while. I absolutely hated the last Stanley Kubrick film I saw, so maybe it's time.
Mm-hmm.
Should I don't know if I want to introduce all 3 of them first, or if I just want to rabbit on about this one for a bit.
Wrap it
All
on.
right. Look, the thing that drives me nuts about Stanley... Oh, okay. Premise of the movie. An Air Force commander in the United States has gone a little bit cuckoo and presses the nuclear launch button, right? Starts sending a bunch of planes into Russia. Everyone gathers in the Pentagon war room, including the president and the generals and the Russian ambassador and an ex-Nazi scientist who's in a wheelchair. Don't worry about it, we'll get there. And they basically have to stop the world ending. They're like, what are we going to do? We have to get the planes to turn around. But one of the instructions that the people on the planes have is stay out of contact. Like if you get the launch code, if you get the code red to go, shut down all your communications equipment because it could be like compromised or hacked, right? The big fear was that there would be some secret communist uprising in like New York or Washington or whatever. And this is the safety mechanism, the mutually assured destruction. And so the whole movie is this frantic effort to get in touch with the people on the planes to say, stop, it's all a big mistake. So that's the premise of the movie.
Where's the doctor come in?
Oh, so the doctor. Now, the second premise of this movie, the meta premise, if you will, is that there's one actor who plays 3 different characters in this movie.
Did you do a thing like this? And then there were 3 of him?
No. What's that? What's that? Jett just waved their hands around everybody. Oh, it's Doctor Strange, everybody. Just doing a Doctor Strange. No, it's not that. It's they're not in the same room. It's the actor. But I didn't know which one it was. I just knew that this was a thing that happened. So I had this excellent minigame which made the movie way more entertaining, which was figure out which 3 characters are played by the same person. And I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Yeah. I had kind of assumed that he played the main character in each of the 3. Like, so there's a scene in...
You went for the cheapest option.
What do you mean?
So you knew that this actor played 3 characters. Yeah. So you were just like, the 3 main characters is probably them.
Well, one of my suppositions was surely he won't be playing 2 people in the same location, right? And I was watching all the shots and being like, there and that. And he fucking was. So there's 3 locations, right? There's a plane that's flying over Russia. Yeah. There's the war room. And then there's like the Air Force base where the rogue...
What's the size of the Air Force base?
Like pretty big.
I'm most intrigued with that one.
Why?
I don't know. I just like...
It's up in Canada or near the Arctic or whatever or something.
What's the size of the other 2?
Is this big talk? This fucking big talk. Well, the plane's the smallest because it's a plane.
Okay.
And the war room's the middle size. And then the air because it's inside the Pentagon.
Tell me about the big military base. I don't about the others.
We do see it from the outside a bit. Okay. There's a bunch of signs up that say peace is out. Oh, this is a satire, by the way. This is a comedy and a satire of kind of the Cold War mentality and mutually assured destruction and the army. And there's a bunch of signs that show up all the time that say peace is our profession. And so the Air Force Base is mostly signs that say peace is our profession. It's got an inside bit. It's got an outside bit. It's got a fence. At one point, a big battle happens on the Air Force Base because the president and the generals send in the army to fight the guy who issued the launch commands. And the guy who issued the launch commands has said to his men, like, yo, anyone who approaches is probably a Russian agent. So if they get within 200 yards, shoot them. So there's a tiny little mini civil war that goes on at this Air Force Base. Does that help? We don't really see it from the outside very much.
So it doesn't really feel that big.
No. This movie's in black and white, just cause, even though they had color by then, so that's fun.
Okay.
I thought it was really funny and really insightful and really incisive, except for the last 15 minutes, because I think that Stanley Kubrick gets to the last 20 pages of his scripts and forgets what his stories are about. Because they just change. So this whole story is being like, it's been about these 2 superpowers and mutually assured destruction and the way in which they struggle and only just communicate and barely avert disaster because they're being so like patriotic and jingoistic. And then in the last 15, 20 minutes, this ex-Nazi scientist with a disability who keeps accidentally doing Heil Hitler's rocks up and he talks about computers and then basically pitches Fallout. He's like, yo, I've been thinking, what about underground bunkers? What about underground bunkers? And we put 1 man to 100 women as the ratio. And he just goes on this weird rant. And he's like, in 100 years, in 93 years, it'll be fine. And we can just come out and rebuild society. And it's like, Stanley Kubrick, you were not making a movie about AI and you were not making a movie about surviving nuclear fallout. Okay, what is this? Why is this guy here? It's very confusing.
But does it make a point?
Like, no.
Is it just making a different point?
Like, no. I think it's because this is adapted from a novel.
Okay.
And this character's been there. Dr. Strangelove is this character, this ex-Nazi scientist, who's been there the whole time in the room, but not saying anything or doing anything. At one point, someone asked him a question like, yo, he's like, weapons research development or something. It's just very odd. It's a very odd transition. I didn't like it, but I really did enjoy the movie. One of my favorite things about it is...
You don't think that it points out the ridiculousness of the other premises by just bringing in another weird premise that everyone's like, that's weird, but it's probably as equally weird as all the other stuff that's going on?
I just can't explain how wildly big and weird this performance is.
I'm down for it if it's big.
It doesn't match the movie, which is like,
sick.
It's interesting. It's I guess it's pretty entertaining to watch, but I was just really enjoying the deeply cutting satire. One more thing I liked about this, every time we cut to the plane that is flying over Russia, the score, the sound is like a military march remix of the Ants Go Marching One by One. It's like, it's really good. It's really good. Makes a good satirical point and also just sounds banging. I'm like, I would march to that.
Sick.
Yeah.
So you do have a favorite ant thing.
Holy shit, I have a favorite ant thing. My favorite insect is ants, but only when they're American servicemen in a plane.
Perfect. Great.
There you go.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. And then the next day, I watched Hunt for the Red October.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
I've seen that one. That's in a boat.
It sure is.
That's a drowned boat. What are those called?
Yeah, a drowned boat. So it's set in a bunch of drowned boats. This is also...
I hated this
not
film.
shipwrecks. You've seen this?
Yeah, I just told you I saw it.
Drunk boats? What?
Drowned boat. Because it's in drowned boats.
What?
I can't remember the name of it, but it's set in drowned boats,
Yeah.
isn't it? The boats that are under the water.
Yeah. I can't tell if this is a bit or not.
No, I just can't remember the name. Doesn't matter. I'm telling you that I've seen it. I'm relating.
Okay, but you didn't like
This
it.
is a situation in which one of us has also seen the thing that the other one, two of us have seen a thing.
Yeah, but you're telling me you didn't like this thing.
I watched it when I was like 12.
Oh, okay, yeah. Probably be young. This one was my favorite one out of these three. So this is from 1990. It's John McTiernan. It's based on one of those books. You know those books that you see at airports?
I know those books.
It's a Da Vinci Code-esque book.
Because it's got a bad name. Call it Drowned Boats.
Call it Drowned
the Cold
Boats.
War.
I actually really
because
like it.
what is Red October? What does that mean? Is it some military name? Probably.
It's a drowned boat name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked this. It's just a thriller and an action movie that's just really good, really tense all the way throughout. It's just a great place to set. They're underwater in a pressurized tin tube, and also everyone's got nuclear weapons, but also they're all trying to hide from each other. And so you have to be really quiet, and you have to hide behind the other boats. And sometimes they just stop the engines to see if they can hear someone else with their sonar. It's just good. And then Alec Baldwin is there doing, honestly,
a Trump impression.
One of his better roles. I was like, I actually believe this is a character. Like, I'm not just watching him play himself. Like, he's fine
I saw him
in
in
Mission
30 Rock
Impossible.
recently.
Yeah?
I watched him the other week. I watched a couple of episodes of 30 Rock.
Yeah.
While I was on my Donald Glover stint.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Didn't get to any of the episodes written by Donald Glover or the ones that he's in. But Alec Baldwin was in that, and he kind of plays himself.
I think the younger Alec Baldwin is, the more likely you get a good performance out of him.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe, but I'm not totally sure on that. And then there's a lot of dedication in this movie to like seriousness. Like, we're being very serious. We're playing it pretty straight, except for one thing. And that is that the three main Russians are played by Tim Curry, Sean Connery, and Sam Neill. Now, you might say, Sam Neill in 1990, wasn't he busy? Apparently not. Apparently you can film many, many things in a year. He was in this the same year he was in Death in Brunswick, and let me tell you, honestly, he probably gives a better performance in Death in Brunswick.
Wow.
Only because he has more to work with. You know, he's the main character there, but here he's one among many.
How goofy are these military men? These three.
They're played dead straight. Well, look, so basically the plot in brief of Hunt for the Red October, which will help me answer your question, is Russians have invented a new it's a silent engine for their drowned boats. So they can sneak across, and they could deliver a first strike nuclear weapon without.
I hate that you know the name for it right now. Like, I know that you know the name.
I know
for
exactly what it
boats,
is.
And,
Do you want me to? Do you want help?
Do what you want.
No, I'm not going to tell you then. I'll tell you at the end of the section if you haven't thought of it.
I'm the drowned
like a drowned boat. Nice. And so basically, this is going to fundamentally shift the balance of power in the Cold War. But the admiral who is in charge of this drowned boat called Red October is defecting. So he takes his whole boat and steers it towards America. Now, the Americans freak out because they're like, he's going to hit us with a nuclear bomb. And the Russians freak out because they're like, he's going to defect. And everyone on the boat doesn't know what the captain's planning, except for most of the officers who are in on it, except for Tim Curry, who is not in on it. So there's a great scene where he's like getting some food from the canteen, and he's yabbering away to Sam Neill. And Sam Neill's like, yo, can you get me the fucking stratospheric measurements for the Uba-Duba-Dumpf? And he's like, what, now? And Sam Neill's like, yeah, now. And Tim Curry leaves, and they lock him out, and they have a secret meeting. It's funny. Only Tim Curry is played for laughs.
You know what? I did like this movie.
You did like this movie. I'm so glad.
I think that some of it was boring, but I remember the bit where it's like, oop, they're coming for the US, and the US don't think that they're good.
And so then there's
that was fun.
There's so
that
many
was
fascinating
fun
things like that, where like the Russian ambassador comes in and talks to the Secretary of State or Defense or whatever, and the Secretary of Defense has heard from Alec Baldwin, who is a CIA analyst, that Alec Baldwin thinks that this Russian captain is defecting, but he doesn't tell the Russian ambassador that. So the Russian ambassador's like, yo, we lost a submarine. We need your help to find it. And the Secretary of Defense is like, you lost a nuclear drowned boat? What are you talking about? And then he's like, fine, we'll help you find it so that we don't have an accidental war. And then later on, he pretends to be shocked and he summons the Russian ambassador and he's like, you haven't lost this boat, you're hunting this boat. How dare you? I am so shocked. It's just good. It's just fun political intrigue. And there's double crosses everywhere, big reveals everywhere. And the whole time, Sean Connery just has a really strong Irish accent and it's a little distracting.
Nah, it's great.
But it's good. It's a really good movie. I really liked it. And now I'm like, damn, do I have to watch Die Hard now? Like, am I going to actually like that? Because I've always assumed that I'd be like, no, it's just bad schlocky action. But I'm like, but I like this.
But this isn't bad schlocky action.
No.
This is like the boring person's fun movie.
This is a dad movie. This is 100% a dad movie.
A big dad movie. It's like this and Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Yeah.
That one's gory. I watched my dad made me watch the start of that. It was like, you got to watch this.
Were you older or younger than when you watched?
Nah, young. Probably too young to watch the movie.
Yep.
Because the start is just like this grotesque scene of war.
Yeah.
Where they're on this beachfront and they're just trying to get to one person and people are getting shot. People are getting cut in half. And it's like you see in Teston, it's gross.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. He might have been showing me that to put me off drafting myself into any war.
Was that likely?
No, but it definitely wasn't likely afterwards. That's for sure.
Maybe it worked.
Yeah.
Have you gone back and watched it since?
No.
Oh, will you ever? Or are you scarred?
I'm scarred.
Okay.
But I'm getting tempted by war again. I'm like, oh, maybe I could fight for my country, so maybe I'll have to.
Where is this coming from? I think it's the alcohol talking. 5-drink Jett is just wants to enlist.
Patriotic enlistment Jett. I think that we should have a war and that everybody should go for 2 days.
Okay. You just pitched military conscription to me.
Yeah, but for 2 days.
What? Just so they see how bad it is?
Because you'll probably survive in 2 days.
Well, depends.
Yeah.
Why? So that people learn to not...
But not a serious war, though.
Oh, just one of the ones where you stand around with a gun in the desert.
Like, you know that bit in, like, the Barbie movie when the Kens are fighting each other like that?
Oh, everyone should do... I feel like that's going to encourage people to war more than scare them off.
Okay. How about an emu war?
Oh,
again, we do another one of them.
Well, we lost the last one. We have to get our vengeance.
I know. We're not good at fighting emus.
It's been almost 100 years now, I think.
They're too strategic.
Yeah.
They're just too good at fighting. Like, we will just wait. I don't know why we even.
For those curious, I'm not getting into it. But look it up. We lost.
Go to the Wikipedia page of the Great Emu War. We could fight the New Zealanders.
Oh, yeah. Nah, they're all. Are we going to swim to them or are they going to swim to us? Because we can't
we throw rocks from our individual islands.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, famously, we can't afford drowned boats. They're going to cost us like $400 billion. So we'll just throw rocks.
Yeah, they're not too far away. You can see them from like that peninsula, like Mornington Peninsula. I was out there the other day. I could see New Zealand.
Kill 2 kiwi birds with 1 stone.
I could throw a stone far enough to kill 2 kiwi birds, I reckon. Yeah. I'm not talking about a serious war.
Okay.
I'm just like, it's been too long since I've seen Saving Private Ryan.
I think we should just go play paintball.
Yeah, we could do that. That sounds fun. Let's do that.
All right, I do have one more film.
All right, tell me about your Cold War film.
Well, this one's a documentary because I thought I can't just watch 3 thrillers or like I can't just watch. I can't watch.
No, you couldn't keep.
I can't watch 3 movies
consistent.
where the looming threat is mutual nuclear annihilation. So instead, I watched a documentary where the looming threat is mutual nuclear annihilation. This is a documentary from recently. I don't know. I think it was 2020. It's called The Man Who Saved the World. Actually, it's from 2014. It's called The Man Who Saved the World. Dramatic title. And it's about a guy called Stanislav Petrov who was hanging out one day doing his job at a Soviet air command base. He was in charge there. And a bunch of alarms started going off saying that America had launched a bunch of nukes. And he had to
Had they?
decide what to do about that.
Wait, why was it his job?
Because he was
Doesn't
in
it
charge.
go straight to the person?
He was on the ground. Well, it was his job. Technically, it was his job to decide whether or not to pass that on. Basically, he was on the phone, or he had the phone right next to him, and it's his job to say, there are missiles coming, or to say, this is a false alarm, right? He had to
so
make
they could
that
have
call.
not been missiles coming.
Yeah. Well,
That's what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, if there was missiles coming, you and I wouldn't be here having this conversation.
No, true. But also,
The doco
he was
is also
told that
called
there
The
were
Man
missiles
Who Said-
coming.
Yeah, exactly.
He was just one person in the chain of people.
Exactly. But
So
he's
somebody told him that there was missiles
the
coming. and it was-
computers told him that missiles were coming.
Oh,
Anyway.
so it's like ChatGPT saying add some glue to your cheese on your
Yeah.
pizza to make it stick more.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Because
Fucking
like,
hell.
what if it
We should burn them all.
computers?
Yeah.
I'm down. I got matches right upstairs. This is it,
I got
folks.
matches just
Farewell.
over here.
Goodbye.
I used a
pod ends
match
here.
yesterday
Yeah.
in the wind.
Oh.
Doesn't work well in the
No,
wind.
no.
Don't ask me why.
Fire's so funny. If it's too small and it's windy, it's like, oh, I can't. It's too windy. But if it gets just big enough, it's like, oh, wind. Oh, I'm gonna get ya.
Yeah.
It's like, pick a lane, dude. You know,
Pick a lane.
pick a fucking lane.
God. All right, so was
this
was
is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Like, this is the highest stakes possible, and it's the most like regular person put in extreme situation imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's a very good doco. But I'm not sure.
Probably because it's about a boring person who's an unimportant one, just in a link of a chain.
That's the
just
thing.
a chain link.
The whole doco.
Chain of
Cha-chain.
fools. We went for different
No,
songs.
yeah.
That's really
Also,
embarrassing.
don't think mine existed. I think I was thinking of that song from Greece that's like, together
you were.
forever, like bop dabba dabba dap bop shabop de bop. But I just said the word chain instead of every syllable. Chain,
That's
chain,
fine.
chain, 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 like that.
We're staying true. This is what I was talking about at the start of the podcast, where we're staying true to the musical
That's
essence.
right. You just
that
bring
is
it
core
in
to us.
whenever it's even tangentially half related. You just bring it in and you see where
You
we
just bring
go.
it in. Yeah. Why it wasn't good? That's fine.
I
Doesn't
think-
need to be. You watched 3 films.
It was exactly. It was very compelling because the story is it's they do traditional like documentary filmmaking following this guy around in his old age, and then they had actors recreate the events of the day. So pacing wise and rhythmically, it was like boom, boom, which was crazy. What you said is kind of right though. It is just about a guy, and when you see him, his wife died. He's not connected to his family. He lives alone in an apartment in Moscow. He's really grumpy and crotchety, and he's just a guy. And that's kind of the point of the doco. And
Was
by
this
the
a
end,
Netflix doco?
no, it's not.
Who made this? Okay.
I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
There's a trend recently. Not a trend. People are noticing. People always have their complaints about things, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Are you aware of this? Do people complain?
Unfortunately, I am on the internet in any way at all. It's a pity.
I've got this issue at the moment where people are complaining.
Yeah.
And I feel these people, they're fucking complaining all the time. It's awful and I've had enough of it. Anyways, these people are complaining about, that was a joke, by the way, of me complaining about people complaining. If you didn't, just to force it down your throat. People are complaining about Netflix docos and things like that, where it's like, hey, here's an 8-part series of this crime that happened. And then within like 2 episodes, like, well, we have most of the information now. What are we going to do for the next 6 episodes? Like fluff, I guess?
Yeah.
Or like they're interviewing people, and some of the people that they brought in are like YouTubers or online analyzers or something, which is just like YouTubers who have done some sort of video on the crime, whatever the documentary is about. And they're clearly just fluffing it up to be this saga. But it's like, this could be a one episode thing, a 90-minute TV movie documentary instead of making it a big thing. And that just is what this reminds me of.
This was
like,
this gave Big that energy.
You could pick anyone in any point of this conflict. Do a documentary on the computer.
Yep. Well, no one
Do a
knows.
documentary
No one
about-
really knows what happened. It just glitched. It just freaked out.
We'll do a documentary on that.
Yeah. It
On
felt
that specific
like,
computer. Interview.
Yeah.
Put it up to a camera.
Yeah.
Hook an AI up to it and interview it.
Yeah.
Say, why did you do this?
don't know. Just felt like
know.
it. Got bored.
Bleep bloop.
Bloop,
Bleep bloop.
bloop, Bloop, bloop.
Got bored.
I'm
Get
built
it
by
because I have a
Russians.
computer board inside me. Bloop, bloop.
Bloop, bloop. I'm defective. Bloop, bloop. This, yes, you've hit the nail on the head despite not having seen this. This would be a perfect 8-minute Tom Scott YouTube video. Or a perfect 8-minute Matt Parker looks at the math in the computer video. Or a perfect 8-minute some other YouTuber does a video on this.
They should have got one of those in for the documentary.
Because it's a
put them as
fascinating
an online
story.
analyzer.
It's so interesting, and I think so many people should know about it because it's just like the Cuban Missile Crisis, I guess. It's just another great illustration of yep, the world literally could have ended except one person trusted his gut over a blinking couple of lights. And I think that is wild how close we let ourselves get. And also, that danger didn't really go away. The Cold War didn't really end. It just opened some dark fractal flower, and now we have more than 2 people with nukes. Now we have so many. I think it's a really valuable story, but I don't necessarily think you have to give it 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out of all of that, over these 3 films, do you think people should start on that Cold War thing again? Do you think people should be like, all right, let me watch some movies, let me watch a docu-series, let me get into the Cold War? Or do you think it's something we could just put behind us?
Yeah, I think it's something we can just put behind us. And I don't know, if you're gonna watch a doco about world-ending events, watch something about climate. If you're gonna watch a film nerd satire, then yeah, Stanley Kubrick's good for that. And if you just want a good time to be in the past and forget about everything, probably Hunt for the Red October. It's just really good. It's just really entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. They go through a giant underwater chasm at one point, and they obviously can't see anything in a big drowned boat. So they have just the measurements of the boats who have gone through before them, and they have to, so it's 30 seconds straight, then you turn 30 degrees to the right and you go for 8 seconds, which is fine unless you're being chased by a depth charge, right? Like a bomb mounted on an underwater missile, and then you have to go fast, and then you have to make it up, and that's really entertaining. It's just good all the way through. There's just a bunch of good scenes like that, you know?
They should do a documentary on that.
Fuck, they should do a documentary on that.
Wait, is Hunt for the Red October? It didn't happen.
Well, it's one of those things where the author... there was a Russian drowned boat that went missing.
How are we meant to learn from history? Everyone's saying, learn from history so you don't repeat it.
Yeah.
You're doomed to repeat it if you don't learn from it, whatever. And we're constantly repeating history, right?
That's the point.
I think the issue is we have too much fictional stuff.
It gets
because
in the
people
way.
are watching the Red October, Hunt for the Red October, and they're not watching the important stuff, like this one about a guy who was sitting at a computer one time and decided to ignore the notification that showed up.
It's because one is way more interesting than the other.
However, maybe we'd have less conflict.
Maybe.
That's all I'm saying.
It's a good point. Anyway, there was a real boat that went missing, and no one knows why, and it's a bit of a nothing story, but it's one of those ones where I think Tom Clancy wrote this book or whatever. All of those guys are interchangeable. It doesn't fucking matter. He went, what if that was a thing?
Cool, I guess.
And there's also 2 keys at one point that they used to unlock something, and in Mission Impossible, the last one, there was 2 keys and a missing underwater boat, so I bet that's going to... Basically, I will now get any references that they put in the next one. I'll be a big nerd.
I think you're drawing too many... You're doing a me from last week when I was...
What's that?
Drawing lines when maybe they weren't there in the childish.
Yeah, okay, but some of the lines were there, when you use the same instrumental in 2 songs. That's a line.
Obvious.
That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I rest my case.
There are a bunch more as well. Rest your case.